Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 8 Plus and see how this particular iPhone holds up in the later part of 2024. Now, there's a few things to keep in mind here. Number one, I will definitely tell you, I don't necessarily think this is a good phone to pick up anymore. I thought it was a great phone when it first came out, but it probably isn't worth buying, and there are several other phones I would highly recommend buying over this one. Now, starting off with the outside of the iPhone 8 Plus, a big thing to keep in mind here is that the front side and the body of this phone, it still feels like a pretty good, pretty expensive phone for the most part. It doesn't necessarily feel cheap, which is something I love seeing. It still is like a pretty expensive feeling phone. 5.5-inch Retina IPS panel on the front, 1080p. And I do think, once again, that in and of itself is a really, really cool thing here. The fact that this display is big, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's still big enough for the most part. And it still looks pretty good. I don't, again, have too many things to complain about here when it comes down to this particular device. And I do think this in and of itself is a really big thing to keep in mind here. Now, I do think on top of that, lightning port at the bottom, you're getting your, fingerprint sensor here too. The fingerprint sensor is pretty old. Lightning is kind of old now too. So it is a little bit of an outdated device nowadays. It's not an ugly device though, but it is showing its age just a little bit when you're kind of looking at it from this particular perspective. On top of that, you're getting your standard glass back with a dual camera setup. Still some really nice feeling phone though. Wireless charging, the first iPhone actually to bring wireless charging, one of the first ones. Dual camera setup still. And that's kind of it, right? IP certification. There's not really anything else super insane going on here, but it still feels like a pretty good, pretty well powerful phone for the most part. Now, the biggest thing though that's probably changed this year is that we did get some more iOS 16 updates this year. So right now, I think we're like on iOS 16.7.10 or something like that. And it is pretty insane that we got this version of software, right? It's pretty crazy to me that we're still up here getting versions of software on this phone. I think that one came out like a month and a half ago. So even though technically speaking, this iPhone got unsupported with software like 2 years ago, we're still getting some sort of software updates here and there on this particular device, which I think is a really big thing to keep in mind. So if you were to go through and get a certain phone, what's really nice that this phone is still getting some security updates, but keep in mind, these are not full-fledged software updates. So these things are not giving you like iOS 18, they're not giving you Apple Intelligence features. They're just basic updates, but they're still fixing some things here and there, which is nice. But keep in mind, this is kind of the problem that we're getting when we're getting this phone because it's already done getting software updates for the most part. So that is a little bit of a disadvantage if you're going to go through and get a device. That is a little bit of a disadvantage for this particular phone. So kind of keep that in mind. I did get a chance to compare this phone against the iPhone 16s as well. And what I found was basically more or less essentially the same thing. Like this phone is still giving you pretty, it's a good feeling phone. But when you start powering on and using it, that's when this phone starts feeling a little bit older. It's giving you, an IPS panel. It's not giving you an OLED display, no high refresh rate, no triple camera setup, no MagSafe, no USB-C, no camera action button. This phone is missing out on a lot of different things. And when you are getting a phone like this, you are going to start realizing that there are some kind of disadvantages in a way when buying this type of phone. So I will tell you from that side, it is a pretty big thing to keep in mind there. Again, it isn't the biggest deal in the world, but if you are planning on buying an iPhone, I probably would not recommend buying an iPhone, 8 Plus as at this point. I think there are probably better phones for you to go ahead and pick up. And that's just me kind of being honest. So in terms of that, I think that kind of covers it up for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.